can talk to her in a minute, but we're going to get started so I can make sure that our illustrious speaker has his time. Are we ready? Okay. This guy probably needs no introduction. He's an author of many books. He's shared with my audiences a number of times, spoken to thousands and thousands of people from stage. If you want to talk about sales, if you want to talk about mindset, which is also part of sales if you don't understand, if you want to understand really how to take your business to the next level, and you want to understand the 3 deadly fears facing every entrepreneur, then you need to listen to what this guy has to say. So without any further ado, I'm going to give you as much time as possible, Scott Schilling.
Thank you.
And a good friend, too.
And that's right, and a friend. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, the rest of you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How many of you have a fear of going to a speaking event to have the entire tollway shut down ahead of you?
It's happening.
Yeah, me too. I just experienced it. But was it really a fear? Not really. Because fear by definition is fantasized experience appearing real. I was either going to make it or I wasn't. Not a whole heck of a lot I could do about it. But how many would have all of a sudden created a significant amount of anxiety, gotten kind of wrapped around the axle, as they say, right? All of a sudden you're sitting there going, oh my God, I'm going to let down this whole room of people. No, I'm not.
No.
Because the fact is I'm going to be here when I'm going to be here, and I'll give it everything I got when I'm going to be there. But because I knew I was going to do that, it was annoying, but it wasn't traumatic. How many times do we create our own traumatic events? And I know you'll find this hard to believe. Stress comes along with that. How many of you are fans of stress?
We've got a few.
We have a few that are still fans of stress. Talk to Rayanne. We can get rid of that. So this is actually part of a talk that I do on the 11 deadly fears. But I knew we didn't have enough time to cover all 11. So I thought I'd cover the 3 deadly fears facing every entrepreneur. Now wait a second. There's 11 deadly fears, 3 of them for the entrepreneur. That makes no sense. Well, the other 8 are for your customer. There's one reason a customer doesn't buy. Fear. Because they have put something in their head that has caused them to not take action. And that's what we're going to explore. Now, here's the really interesting part of it. There are 8 separate fears that our prospects all walk through in life as we're presenting our products, as we're doing our different things. Everybody says, well, of course, it's all about them. You know, it's their issues that keep them from buying. Au contraire. We have 3 ourselves as the presenter, and that's what we're going to explore in our time together. So again, there's normally 11 deadly fears, but I'm going to talk about these 3. Now, fear, if any of you have heard me talk about sales presentation and everything, you've heard me say that selling is nothing more than a conditioned response. We make a presentation, somebody responds to it in a certain way, we take that piece of information, and then we respond to it, and then they say something. It's a conditioned response. Well, fear is the exact same. Now, I just happened to be in that situation on the Sam Rayburn where all of a sudden everything comes to a screeching halt, and I'm looking at Waze like I needed to know how to get here. I mean, I'm only here like a gazillion times, but I was watching the time, right? And the original time was 11:27.
That's got to be close.
11:42. It just kept on going. So the question is, what was my conditioned response to what could have been a fear event? It was peace. It was calm. I'm a professional. I've done this before. How many of you have ever done the greatest presentation in the history of ever to have something go wrong? It's called life. Stuff happens in life. That's what fear. So there's 8 for your prospects. We're not going to get into those, and 3 potentially for you. So we're going to learn to recognize these fears. Is this fair? Would this be helpful?
Yeah.
That would be a question to which you answer.
Yes.
Okay, good, perfect. So let's also learn how to resolve them. Fear is an emotion. It's a specific reaction to a threat. And quite frankly, fear triggers flight, and freeze. Now, what's really interesting is the vast majority of people really understand about fight and flight.
That's right.
All of a sudden, somebody comes up to you, I'm ready to fight. All of a sudden, somebody comes up to you, I'm ready to run. Both of those are very natural and very helpful in our situation. But it's actually the third one that causes the greatest problem.
That's right.
And that's freeze. And freeze is really that situation where now something comes into your awareness and all of a sudden you go, should I fight? Should I run? Should I talk to myself? Should I stand? What should I do? Where should I be? Oh, I think I'll stand here. Well, if I stand here, I'm going to be a punching bag. Well, that'll be new and different, right? And unfortunately, that's what happens to entrepreneurs. It's not fight, not flight, but freeze. They don't take action. And when you don't take action, there's no way to improve the situation. There's also no way for the situation to get worse. One of the reasons that they don't do it. Now, normal fear keeps us safe. We're all programmed in to have fear. You go and you learn as a child to touch a hot stove. How many times do you do that?
3 or 4.
Typically once. 3 or 4 if you're Randy. It's a learning curve.
That was it.
Oh, sorry. I'm so accustomed to it coming from you. I just want to credit you
There's a
appropriately.
Mark Twain verse.
I know. I just want to credit you appropriately, right? Irrational fear is what stunts the growth. It stunts our lives, or stunts everything. So if I really wanted to make this really long, if you look up phobias, there are actually 530 different phobias. We wonder why people are a little stressed these days, right? Everything is about, they get caught by this phobia, by this fear, and it keeps them from taking action. We start to understand. So if we as entrepreneurs understand that people stop their progress because they're walking into fear, doesn't it make sense that we should learn how to handle not only ours, but handle theirs? Again, theirs is a totally different talk you're going to have to come back for. But we'll look at ours. Franklin D. Roosevelt said it like this: the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Now, this was from his first inaugural. See, he identified fear very properly right there. It's unjustified. But this terror now paralyzes us so we don't take the actions we need. Now, as an entrepreneur, how many of you are chief cook and bottle washer? That means you do all the jobs. Well, you say, wait a second, but I don't know all the skills for all the jobs. Well, if I don't know the skill, I won't do the skill. Well, if I don't do the skill, I don't get the action. If I don't get the action, what happens to your business? It probably goes nowhere. So we have to bust through that. Now, I'm going to help you bust through some of those fears as we go. Again, that was from the inaugural in 1933. So these deadly fears, the number one becomes the enemy of the presentation. So now our job as an entrepreneur is to present our products, goods, and services, to supply solutions to their needs, wants, and desires. But if we're so afraid of taking that action, we don't make the presentation. How many closes do you get when you don't make a presentation?
0.
That was a question. 0 is the answer. The fact is your business can go nowhere if you don't take that action. It'll kill the deal, overcome by a solid product knowledge and professional presentation skills. So again, as we're developing, some of us more mature, that's code word for old, some of us more mature folks have understood throughout our career, we constantly have to be learning. Because I don't know if any of you recognize, there's a thing called millennials out there. And they're different than me. Doesn't make them good, doesn't make them bad, it just makes them different. And so if I don't continue to learn and grow, in comparison, my skill set and my abilities drop. So you've got to be a passionate learner. Wait a second, Scott, you're talking about fear here and you're telling me I have to learn. Yeah. It's one of the ways you defeat fear, is to keep on learning. You have to keep on pressing to get more information. You know, there was a great book a number of years ago came out, Outliers. And what did it say? What was the key to success in Outliers? 10,000 hours of a repeated event to become proficient. I was backstage with Brian Tracy one day, and I had been doing this event now I had done it 50 times. And I said, Brian, this presentation is an hour and 48 minutes. And I've given it like a lot. Does that seem like a lot? Like 50 times would be a lot? I thought it was a lot. And I said, I still don't feel like I have it perfected. And he just started laughing. And I said, Brian, you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, how do you perfect a talk? He said, it's 8 hours for every 1 hour of presentation for the first 50 times. So in essence, I had to have 800 hours in on that presentation. All of a sudden I went, I don't feel so bad. I've just got more learning to do. Well, I ended up doing that 21,557 words 1,500 times. 3,000 hours. Do you think I had it down pretty good? It's repetition. See, that's where some of us more mature folks have a tremendous advantage in the marketplace today. We've got the 10,000 hours in. We're going against people that haven't lived 10,000 hours. Do you get it? I mean, we are finely tuned. Now, what if we could team with those people and help lift them up and carry them along? Now we've got something very special. So what's the first fear for us? And the first fear for us is fear of rejection. That's the state of being over-dependent. My good friend, Sean G. Murphy, the expert on addiction to approval. That's what this is. The state of being over-dependent for approval, recognition, affirmation of others in order to feel good about ourselves. See, people say, oh, Scott, I just don't want to ask for the order. I might get rejected. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you for a fact. If you don't ask for the order, you are going to be rejected by your bank account. You will be rejected if you don't take the action. The second is a self-censoring attitude. That means we're totally in control of the fear of rejection. Nobody can control or reject us. Has anybody ever heard, oh, they made me feel bad? Has anybody ever heard that?
Yes.
Can anybody make you feel bad?
No.
It is not possible. The only person who can make you feel bad is you. It's not what anybody ever says to you that counts. It's what you say to you after they stop talking. Let that one land. You go into a honky-tonk. There's a pretty girl across the bar. I want to go dance. I ask her to go dance. She says no. Did my life get worse?
Nope.
Didn't get better,
Maybe got that.
but it didn't get worse. Now, it's not even her saying no that counts. It's what do I say to me next? Well, she really doesn't. I can't believe she's going to miss out on that much fun dancing with me. Or, oh, I must be a real drag. I wonder, is the lettuce still stuck in my teeth? What do you say to yourself at that point? This is that self-censoring point, right? What it does is it ends up inhibiting your creativity and your productivity and your imagination. You stop taking risks. You stop taking actions. Because all of a sudden you're talking, you say, well, I could do that, but that's not going to work anyway. I don't know why I'd go out on a limb for them, because if I did that, somebody might laugh at me. And then if they laugh at me, what would that do to my self-esteem? And oh my God, then we're just going down this tunnel. And who's doing all that talking? You. And you're doing it to yourself. That's the crazy part. Anybody agree? Kind of crazy, right? Fear of rejection is the driving force behind people being authentic human beings. They lose their own identity. Well, I just want to fit in. People really love Sean when he wears his paisley shirts. I need to wear a paisley shirt. If I don't wear a paisley shirt, they won't like me. If I wear a paisley shirt and Sean wears a paisley shirt, they like him and they laugh at me. You got to be who you are. Now, there are times we show up that way, and it's very interesting. Because, actually, I do like that, too. It's much more relaxed, right? Is this making some sense?
Yeah.
Fear of rejection is an irrational fear that others will not accept who you are, that you've put on yourself, that people won't accept who you are. Be who you are. I mean, Dr. Seuss said it many years ago. Those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. The great philosopher, Dr. Seuss. We have to understand that we have to be comfortable in ourselves, in our own skin. Know who you are. The whole fear of rejection. I mean, it's really funny. As a professional speaker, if I'm doing a sales training or I'm talking about speaker training or something like that, people say, Scott, is there ever been a time where you've wanted to please the audience? Yes, every time I want to please the audience. Have you ever won 100% of the audience? 100% of the time, I have never won 100% of the audience. But my intention is to the best I can for the greatest number. That's all I can control. I can control my intention to impart something great to each and every one of you here today, and disconnect from it, have low attachment as to what piece that might be. People, there's a very real possibility in the room, because people have seen me speak before going, Scott, this has nothing to do with sales training. What are you training on? Fear? My God, you're a sales trainer. I've never seen you do this. Well, guess what? I train on lots of stuff. You just have never seen this. Is it a risk for me to do this? No, I want to bring fresh and new and creative material to people to get them thinking. Is this helpful so far?
Yeah.
Go in the right direction? So the fear of rejection is that persuasive motivator for caution. People, their behaviors and their interactions start to wither. If you really allow the thought or even the concept of rejection to come in, what happens is you start to change the way you talk to people. Here, it's interesting. I'm about to go on an 18-city tour around North America and 3 international cities, Melbourne, London, and Toronto as well. And there are people going, well, have you committed for all 18 cities? I said, hell yes. And they go, really? I mean, like some of these cities aren't like the greatest cities in the world and aren't this and aren't that and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, here's what I know to be true. I know if we, as the speaker base, start to say Seattle is not a great seminar city, the event in Seattle will not work well. Now, who created that? We did. But if you say all 18 cities are going to be the best that they can possibly be and we're going to give it everything we got, what is the possibility that could happen? See, if we have that fear of rejection, we don't take action. If we don't take action, that's where we create our own problems. It becomes a state of mind. It makes you incapable of doing or saying anything for fear of others rejecting you. This goes back to Sean's piece again on the on approval or addiction to approval. Well, I don't wear that shirt because somebody might say, I'm not genuine, I'm not authentic. I'm trying to fit into this mold, I'm trying to hit this bucket. The fact is, guess what?
Who cares?
Well, number one, who cares? And I didn't realize you were so good at reading minds to figure out what bucket to get into. What bucket are you trying to get into? Period. Be the best human being you can be and go from there. The other thing about fear of rejection, it just robs you of your energy. I mean, it gets exhausting. You know, self-immobilization, self-defeating, self-destructive behavior. Like I say, this is, prophecy. We're prophesying our own destruction. It makes no sense as far as that goes. And really, it's the act of giving others more power than you give yourself. This is the greatest tragedy. We've all been born infinitely powerful, infinitely creative. You know, I said it in our training here a couple weeks ago. I said, why are you working so hard to fit in when you've been uniquely designed to stand out? You've got gifts I don't have. I've got gifts you don't have. My gifts aren't better than your gifts. My gifts are my gifts. Your gifts are your gifts. Fear of rejection is the addiction of power and control. You give your control to somebody else. So I'm going to be really powerful as long as they let me be. Doesn't work that way from that side. Rejection is only realized within. That's the bottom line to this whole fear. Is the only person who can reject you is you. There is no outward rejection because you have to make a determination on the data that comes to you. And if you don't pull that data in and interpret in such a way that it's negative, it can't happen. Is this making some sense?
Yep.
Eleanor Roosevelt said it this way: no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. If we don't say that we've got an issue, we don't have an issue. Now, can I take that as critical input, modify some things, take some actions, really critically look? Yeah, you should be doing that all the time anyway. That's the fear of rejection. How do you get through it? Confidence is the key. Know your capabilities. Know that you're really good at what you do. You don't have to be good at everything, but the things that you're good at, be really good at them. Does that make some sense? Just be really good at who you are. So how would you bust through it? Well, list the people whose rejection you may fear. Well, mom always makes me feel bad. Some of you might be married to the person. Some of you might not need to be married to the person. Been there. I get it. Right? List the behavior patterns reflecting that fear. Find alternate behaviors that are healthy. So if you've stopped taking action, take a new action. Don't take the biggest action you can. Take a safer, smaller action, and that's the alternate behavior, and start working towards it. List the benefits of taking those behaviors. What's stopping you from adopting the behavior and implement those behaviors? See, that's part of learning. The only way that you can gain any feedback is to take a step. If I was standing right here and you spun me around, you blindfolded me and said, walk to Sean. On that journey, I'm going to be off course far more than I'm ever on course. But if you were giving me course correction, if I turned this way and you said off course, and I turned this way and you said on course, and then I passed the center point and you said off course, and I turned again and you said on course. Do you understand? But the only way I can get there is through feedback. And the only way I can get feedback is through action. You have to take the action going forward. The second fear for us as entrepreneurs, yeah, Randy?
Just in the rejection thing, though, I think we can't reject all the rejections. Some of it is actually positive feedback to help you tailor your presentation, refine your product, etc.
Totally agree. But see, I don't see that as, I see that as feedback.
Okay.
I see that as constructive criticism. I don't see that as rejection.
Got it. Okay.
One of the biggest things, because I did the 21,557 words 1,500 times, when any of our team or anybody else in the company would watch me speak, nobody would ever, oh, that was awesome. Well, what could I improve on? Oh, nothing. Oh, you've done this 1,500 times. You don't understand how bad you want somebody to say,
Right.
hey, I just thought I'd mention, it's okay. The only way to get better is to get constructive criticism, feedback, and whatever. If you don't realize, get married. It's an automatic feedback loop. It just, we won't go there. I got to get going. The next is fear of failure. It's the fear of making mistakes and losing approval. You notice how this comes back to the addiction to approval piece? That's really what fear is. I'm not going to take an action because if I take an action, oh my goodness, it might not work. How many of you are absolutely perfect? I mean, I know we just met. Go ahead, don't be shy. See,
How about one of you?
I had a line there, but I won't go there. Anyway, the point is, if you're not perfect, then the only way you can learn is to take the action. There's nothing wrong with mistakes. Mistakes are the feedback loop to get you more perfected and better. The only problem is if you keep on doing the same wrong action multiple times, then you're stupid because you haven't learned from the first one. When I had a starter wife, and but this happens in life too, not just business. But when I had a starter wife, when that all finished, I said, I am never going to go through this experience again. And so I went to a counselor, and 6 months after going to her, she goes, dude, you don't need to be here anymore. I said, you don't tell me how long I'm coming. I'm going to keep on giving you money until I say I'm done. This is never happening to me again. Well, I ended up going for 2 years. Why? That was never going to happen to me again. I wanted to make sure that I learned from that mistake. You don't make the same mistake twice. Making a mistake is human. Making the same mistake twice is stupid. You haven't learned. And that's why it's so amazing when people keep on doing the same thing over and over. They call it a clue. It didn't work the first time. Why are you doing it again? You know, it's like when you try to communicate a message and somebody says, I didn't understand what you said. Well, let me just say it louder. Well, no, I didn't understand the words the first time. Why would louder make me understand the words? It doesn't work that way. Many times tied to the fear of rejection, I said that it, again, also becomes self-limiting. And here's the biggest thing about the fear of failure. If I don't try, I can't fail. If I stay in freeze, I can't possibly fail. I can die. I can get run over by a truck. I can have all sorts of other nasty things happen to me, but I won't die because of me. Well, that's kind of limiting. Why would you want that? That makes no sense. It's a wasted human potential. We all have the ability to serve. Again, every one of us has been gifted uniquely, and we've been gifted uniquely so we can serve uniquely. What are we doing with that gift? God's gift to us is our talents. Our gift in return is using them to their fullest. Are we truly using? So I told the story quickly when we did our training a couple of weeks ago. Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen heard me speak for the first time, and they said, son, why aren't you out speaking professionally all the time? And I said, well, I have a job. And Jack says, that's a horrible answer. It's not what I ask you. Why aren't you out speaking professionally? I said, well, I've got a job. And he said, son, God's granted you talents and capabilities that he hasn't given the average person. He's given you the ability to stand in front of thousands of people and be able to share a message to turn their hearts, to impress upon them how they can inspire and do more. And when you don't use your talents and capabilities, you're robbing humanity. You're cheating humanity. You're being selfish. Damn. I mean, back off a little bit, right? But that's the point. We all have our place. We all have our position. We all have what needs to come together in the cog on this planet. If we had everything we needed, there wouldn't be 7.3 billion other friends on the planet. It would just be us. We're supposed to coexist and come together. Is this making some sense? Wait a second, what does this have to do with fear of failure? It's because we stop trying. We don't get out there. And the real key is who sets the rules? If you compare yourself to somebody, are you ever exactly the same? No, you're always better than or worse than. You understand where you're going with this? Very problematic. Edison, your heart won't let you fail. Edison said, you had all these attempts at the light bulb. You failed over and over again. He goes, I didn't fail. He said, I just found 14,000 steps that didn't work. None of it's a failure until you deem it to be a failure on this. Buckminster Fuller says, you can't learn less. Every time you take an action, you learn something. Just the way it works. So what do you do to get out of it? Do something. Be persistent. It's not personal. Change your approach. Don't beat yourself up. It's a learning experience. Expose something new and fail forward fast. Go for it. Now, don't be reckless. Nobody's trying to suggest that. But move forward, take the actions, evaluate, make the next action. Make the correction, modification. Go. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, here's the third one. Fear of success. What? I don't fear success. BS. Bad strategy. The vast majority of you fear success. How do I know this to be true? Because you take your business to this level, you hit the ceiling, and all of a sudden you crater it back down. And then you hit the level again, and you crater it back down. And you hit the level, and you crater it back down. You're bumping up against your threshold. That's why you have to see Dagmar and go to her seminars to learn how to bust through those ceilings. But that's what fear of success really is. That you accomplish all your desire and you're still not happy. It's crazy. People don't celebrate their victories. Getting here is a victory today.
That's right.
There were 3 cars and people that were pulled away in ambulances that didn't get here. Me getting here is a victory. Celebrate it as you go along. Belief that you're undeserving of all the good things in life. Why aren't you deserving? Of course you're deserving. We're all deserving. We've worked hard to get where we are and do what we do. Fear of accomplishment and being recognized and honored. That's one of those when somebody says, let me say something good about you. Oh no, shucks. No, I don't. Stand there and say, thank you very much. One of the things I do when I go on stage, and especially it's really awesome when there's like 25,000 people and you do it. You walk up and you get introduced and you come up and they're clapping because that's what they're conditioned to do, and then they start to stop. And I'll go, stop it! Stop it! And it takes them off guard. But what does it do for me? It gives me that little bit more energy because I get to play with them and have some fun with the audience as we do it. Fear of your accomplishments. So then you self-destruct them, self-sabotage. Again, this is working with Dagmar to bust through your fears, bust through this self-sabotage stuff that you do. No matter how much you're able to achieve, it'll never be enough to sustain. If I get this done, then I'm going to have to do more. I was in a corporate position, and I used to say, the more business I do, the more I have to do. As soon as I said that, I went, gosh, this business is going to come to a screeching halt, because who was in control? I was. Belief that it's about others. You can see there's a lot of stuff. Success is in itself is enough. We've been built for that. Fear that once you've achieved the goals, you've worked diligently, the motivation, it's just not fun anymore, then find something that's fun. That's why you got to keep on learning. You got to keep on breathing. You got to find new things. I can assure you, you ever go to the British Virgin Islands once, you want to go more than once. Then go do something that keeps that carrot out in front of you. I suggest you create this success page, and I'll leave it with this. And that is, list your successes for the first third of your life, the second third, and the third third. And then list your successes that will happen in the next 5 years. One of my successes in my first third of my life is we beat a kid in Cub Scout softball. We beat a team 72-0. That was before the mercy rule. But God, it still feels good. Do you understand? I mean, that's a big success as you go along. Journal and understand. Get out of victim language. Get into accountability language. Really be there for each other. If I can ever be of service to you, it's scott@scottschilling.com. I'm here most Tuesdays. Go to Richardson Plano as well. Again, reach out to people. We're here to help. We're here to serve. We want to do that. Bust through these things. There's a lot of talent in this room, and there's a lot of talent in this community can help. Thank you.
Now you know why I love Scott Schilling, right? So great job, Scott. I really appreciate that. We're gonna land the plane here and be out by 1 o'clock.